This podcast is intended for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Bro, what's new?
Oh, just getting ready for third season of Bassmasters, I guess.
Fishing opens again?
Doing 4 opens. Hopefully qualify for the EQs and a couple Toyotas and classic bass. And whoa, you got it.
Oh my god.
It's not spinning though.
It will.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, good work.
Thank you. Okay, you were saying?
Oh yeah, so just a bunch of tournaments again.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And I guess you've been a guy I've always looked up to, a guy who's really, done a lot in the state and proven you can hang out of the state. But I think, dude, you could be one of the best anglers in the world and still go down south and get your ass whooped. Like, can you speak to just, I guess, sticking through the grind and, like, you've had some really good moments, dude.
It started off really good for me doing the opens. I was thinking about that on the way over here. Whoa. I was thinking about that on the way over here. I think my first 4 opens I fished, I had 2 top 10s, a top 20, and like a 70th place. Then it kind of went downhill for a whole year. Like, had a really, really tough year 2 years ago. Just brutal. Not consistent, not catching them. I felt like, it could go better, but just never got on. That's kind of when scoping really took off, and I was way behind the 8 ball on it, honestly. And I was staying with Jamie Bruce at the time, and, he dominated. Like, it was pathetic how good he was. And he's like, it's simple. Just go out there and look for him. I'm like, what am I looking for? What am I doing? And so I dedicated the last 2 years to getting way better at it. And last year, had a good year last year, honestly. I had 2 really, really bad tournaments, which really cost me a lot. But overall, had a chance to win lacrosse. Barge got in the way. Cashed 4 other checks. It was a good year. Like, should have been, you throw a top 10 or a win in lacrosse, you had an awesome year. So I'm looking forward to 25, positive. Not going to put too much on my plate this year, and just try to get solid finishes throughout the year and make it to the EQs. And once you get there, you're going to have to go for it. You have 3 tournaments against arguably the best anglers in the country at that point, and you're going to throw in a whole bunch of elite guys and just go for it as hard as you can. I like the format because I think, not that I'm against scoping at any means, but it's in the fall, especially largemouth down south, it's not so prevalent. You can get by throwing a buzzbait, a jig, a spinnerbait, kind of the way I cut my teeth. And there'll probably be some more just, I don't want to call them fishermen, but more non-scopers make the elites next year than the last 2 years.
What do you think was your biggest challenge? Like, what do you think is the biggest challenge fishing the Bassmaster Opens and that level you've been at?
Well, the biggest challenge for me is, honestly, before I start fishing Bassmaster Opens, I disliked rivers, right? Like, didn't like rivers. Like, felt like I was lost. Now, put me on a river, I don't care where it is, tidal river, whatever it may be, I'll catch them. So I think just changing what I'm looking for and finding a solid, not even like pattern, but a way I can catch fish amongst people,
Mm-hmm.
And, you can't always run away from all the people. So it's kind of like, you got to be really good at what you're doing. You got to have confidence in it in those areas. So last year, last year, probably half or over half my tournaments, the mooch minnow, like, honestly, was just a godsend, because everywhere I went, I could go catch fish on it. And down south, there's a lot of times where, it looks real easy on TV. These guys make it look a lot easier than it is. And there's a lot of times you're struggling to get bit. A lot of time.
Oh yeah.
So having the mooch minnow in my back pocket, I always could pick it up, catch fish, give yourself confidence, and not only catch fish, but catch big fish on it. And last year, kind of turning point for me was St. Clair. St. Clair was the first tournament I ever practiced the whole time with a scope, fished the whole time with a scope. Never altered the plan at all. Like, just
sure.
Had my trolling motor on 100 and scoped the whole time.
And with Powerhouse Lithium, that is indeed possible.
Yeah, I never killed them. Like, I mean, I'm talking...
That's crazy.
I'm talking wide open. And just getting confidence with it. And St. Clair, the way it's set up, it's just set up so good for it. Like, it's so... I wouldn't say easy, but you have to... I mean, it's like... The best way to describe St. Clair is kind of going out to the mud flats on Mille Lacs, and there's no contour change. There's no... Every mile it may change a foot, so it's not like they're holding on anything.
Yeah.
They're
maybe
just,
a grass edge or
no.
not even.
A little bit. If you were in Anchor Bay, that was kind of a thing. I was kind of fishing the main lake, and it seemed like the depth was the deal for me. Anytime there's a lot of fish in that 10 to 14 foot range, I fished most of the time 16 to 18, and there wasn't as many out there, but they were big.
Sure.
And yeah, it was, so that gave me a lot of confidence, and that was, midway through the season, and got going. And
so with that mooch minnow, I guess, what are you finding is your best size range for heads for that, where you've made that work? And what head are you liking for that, if you're allowed to talk about it? And I guess that to me is interesting, how deep you're making it work, how shallow, because I've made it work more towards the shallow range, kind of slow reeling it on more that 16th 3/32 to 1/8 ounce range.
Yeah, like generally what I found down south is you can basically use it as a covering water bait. I mean, you can throw it anywhere, rip bank, it really doesn't matter. Most of the fish I catch on it are probably a 16th ounce hand poured jig by me, and just real light, super light, keep it high. But I've also, it seems like the more the fish get the pressure, 2 or 3 years ago, you could probably went to St. Clair and caught them on a 3/4 ounce mooch minnow.
Sure.
But now it's like the lighter the head, the better odds you're going to get that fish to react to it.
Sure. It's just a matter of, can you get it down to the fish to see it fast enough, right?
Yeah, you got to get it.
Because how deep will you fish that head? That size, would you say?
I've caught them out to 20 feet with it.
Really?
You got to be very patient, what people aren't understanding, these guys are super good at, like Fothergill and some of these young guys. They're so good at leading these fish. It's kind of like going duck hunting.
Sure.
It's like, okay, that fish, first you got to figure out which way it's traveling, then you get on it, and then you're like, okay, I got to get this far in front of it because my mooch is going to take 18 minutes to get down there. So, yeah, and if you're behind it at all, it's not seeing it. So it's kind of...
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, so... Fothergill and I have talked about this before, but I compare it to the game of paper toss on maybe when the smartphone first came out. There was that game, it was called paper toss, and the wind would change, and you'd have to throw the paper and have it land in the basket. And the heavier the wind, the more you'd have to shoot the paper one
the more
way.
You have to lead it.
But that fish swimming 16th of an ounce, shit. You got to basically Sam Darnold, Justin Jefferson, taking the ball deep, taking the top off the defense, lead that fish 20 feet down. A good portion, a good quarter turn.
And it seems like it's not size. The weight of your bait. A lot of times, the littler you go, the bigger fish you catch on it.
That smallmouth, I've noticed that
for smallmouth
sure.
For sure. You can get down there with a 1/2 ounce, but you're only going to catch 2-pounders doing it, right?
Yep.
They're like, oh no, I ain't doing that again.
There's something to that. You're right.
Yep.
I found it with the little jig too.
Yeah.
Except Mille Lacs, they still seemed it. Except last year, I just never got the big jig thing going. But maybe they don't like it no more. They like minnows out there now.
Dude, I mean, from Sturgeon Bay to Florida I mean, everywhere you go, you catch them on a minnow nowadays.
Bro, my eyes have been opened, and I guess kind of like you, man. I some of my best years were pre-live scope, and I feel like I'm just trying to claw back to those. And
yeah. I mean, and the whole thing is with it, it's not, me and Seth have talked about this a lot. Like, these young kids, when their back is against the wall, they scope harder. When my back's against the wall, I run to a bank and try to catch one, right? So that's a hard part about it, like just going all into it, trusting in it, and believing that. And, and it's so crazy with the scoping, just taking a month off or a week off.
Oh, yeah.
Like how inaccurate you are when you get back fishing and how long it takes you. Because you're watching all the time. You're like, oh, God, I screwed that up. Oh, God, I screwed that up. I mean, that goes through your head 500 times a day. So it's like by the end of, when you're in your stride, and, I probably fished for 10 months straight, basically, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the last 2 months, we kind of beat the hell out of the smallmouth around Minnesota. And it was like, you never miss. You're throwing dimes all day long.
Muscle memory is established. It's like hockey, right?
Yeah.
Used to have really good hands and quit playing for a while, and then it was like I picked up a stick and it was like I could hardly dribble a puck anymore. It was like, what the hell happened? But all I can think of is that's why these kids are so good, right? They develop that muscle memory, and you've experienced it now, and you're like, shit.
I mean, it's always like bass fishing. It's always been like you always learn. Unless you're the guy developing it, which I like to do, you always learn too late, right? You're always like looking back at this tournament like, that's all I needed to do, right? But I didn't do that. So now you learn these lessons, and hopefully they come around. They don't come around that often. But they do come around. So now it's like the big challenge. Like, okay, I mean, you watch in the elites last year. You go to these tournaments, you go all in out scoping, or there's always, that, oh, the moon's right, the weather's warm out, they're going to push in. They're going to have to push in, but what we're figuring out, everyone's figuring out, is even when they push in, you can beat the brakes off people out deep. So,
yeah, and I guess I think about what Seth was talking about the other week, and it makes a lot of sense. Like, the toughest tournaments are the ones where you have to kind of do both.
Yeah.
And that to me makes perfect sense with everything you're saying, just due to commitment. And it's like learning, like what you were saying about, like, it's always you're either developed it or you're too late to it. And I guess most everybody's too late to it. But I think with tournament fishing, and like, it's a perception, and it's a perception mentality that's going to beat you the other way. But the guys who seem to be the best at it, is most of that being too late to something and feeling the loss of that. Yeah. It turns into a little bit of trauma, if you will, right? Yeah. And it's a matter of, I think the guys who are really freaking able to make the adjustment, it's being able to bypass that trauma, looking at it as tuition, looking at it as how can you turn that trauma into a positive thing, right? And I think the number one hard thing about tournament fishing, which is why most people don't make it, is there's trauma for everybody who participates.
It's all trauma.
There's trauma for everybody.
I don't think Fothergill's had any last year, but I mean, a lot of trauma besides that.
I mean, I guess I want to make sure this podcast's about you, but I do think it's pretty amazing what the frick. I mean, that guy's like, it's unbelievable. $250,000 in the worst paying circuit, hardest paying circuit. Like,
he's unstoppable. And what I can't wait. Not only do I fish, but I'm a huge fan of it. Like, I watch Bassmaster all the time. I mean, I'm always glued to it.
We breathe it, dude.
Yeah, like I'll be out practicing for an open, listening to live, or listening to a weigh-in or whatever. But what I've really noticed with this forward-facing stuff, like the comers and goers. Like there is a lot of that. So it'll be
Really?
Oh yeah.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Because I guess
I mean, I don't want to call people
No,
out.
no, but
there's guys that almost won ALY, and the next year they're at the bottom of the standings.
oh,
You see that way more now. Like the biggest change we have, I think it's forward facing's changed our sport a lot, but there's a lot of young people right now that can fish endless hours. I mean, it don't.
yeah,
I mean, I didn't have that growing up. I had to work.
yeah, same.
You know, so it's like these kids. I'm jealous. I'm not talking bad about them, but they get. I mean, it's turned into a 12-month a year sport, where you're seeing it with the elite guys. I mean, a lot of my friends over at the elites, they don't fish 12 months out of the year. You know, they have families, they have obligations, and then you see the next generation of the kids coming up that pretty much dominated last year. I mean, dominated.
Right.
They fish 12 months out of the year. I mean, they go home for Christmas. That's
Right.
about it. Until you can limit that, like it's going to be hard to.
It's always kind of been that way, though, right? Like,
No,
well-
I don't think so.
Capra, raveling. I mean, you always had
Yeah.
guys spending more time gaining success from that.
Oh yeah,
And
I mean the
you
more
know what
time,
I mean?
yeah, for
and,
sure.
And it's always been somewhat of a rich man sport, but it used
Yeah.
to be more of a poor man possibility in my
Yeah.
mind. So I think it's always been kind of a rich man sport, but I
Always.
think it used to be more of a poor man possibility and opportunity.
Well,
And
I
I used to
think-
feel like you could do it. And now I just feel like it's tough to compete with money and time.
Yeah, it is. I mean, yeah.
When you don't got money and time, it's really tough to compete with money and
I
time.
mean, when I first started fishing Minnetonka, I mean, I've told the
heck,
story.
if you got money and time, more power to you, right? I do the same. I would
absolutely.
do the same thing.
Absolutely.
right?
I'm not
You can't tell
dissing
me
that.
you wouldn't.
I would.
You'd be like, fuck yeah, I'm
I-
going bass fishing.
I would, and
12 months.
and plus you have to give these guys credit. It's a lot of work every
Shit,
day.
yeah.
They're getting up every day. They're going out grinding, regardless what the weather is. They're going pre-practicing these events for a month ahead of time. I mean that takes dedication and a strong work ethic for sure. It's just the problem is when the whole field can't do something like that. It gets to be, you know, it gets to be where we're at now, where there is a lot of negativity in bass fishing. There's a lot of people complaining about all this stuff. Where if I had to fix the elites or the opens, I mean, I would say there's no practice until the 3 days prior. It would save a ton of money for people to fish. Right? You wouldn't feel like you needed to pre-practice. You wouldn't feel like you needed to do all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you get there for 3 days. We got 3 days this year. The guy who figures it out in those 3 days wins. Right?
I hear you so loud and clear on this. However, like, I feel like the practice rules for professional tournament bass fishing have never been tighter than they are right now. And
Yeah.
I remember as a kid, like, one of the more unfortunate kind of things that I learned was just the information aspect of pro
Yeah.
tournament bass fishing, where it was text me your waypoints. And every pro did it.
Oh, yeah.
And that was, I guess, the norm of pro bass fishing.
Yeah.
Pre-live, heavy internet coverage,
Oh, yeah.
pre all of that. That was pro bass fishing. So I guess I do think that I hear you loud and clear, but at the same time, when you look at it from like a big scope,
Yeah.
is it as like it is tighter than it's ever been, and that thought just came out of my head. It's not something I've really explored
No.
before, but
I mean, it is. They've always had no practice rules. They've always had. I mean, there's still people getting information without a doubt, and it's really hard to police, right? Like, how do you police it? You give everyone a I don't know. They don't call them lie detector tests. I got the proper term the other day, but I forgot it. And, no, you can't do that. I mean, I'm kind of like, I'm at the train of thought where if I have to call the tournament director, it's probably not legal, right? So
Maybe.
I always tend...
Snorkels, the James Chapman snorkel thing was
Yeah.
worth calling the tournament director about.
Yeah,
Legal.
I mean, if you're a person that likes to push boundaries, which I'm not, like I've never been that way with anything in life. I do push authority, but I don't push boundaries, right? Like, so.
I was waiting for the clarification there.
Yeah, like it's like someone, whatever. But it's not like I don't like gray. Like I don't. I don't like to have that feeling. I don't like that. Where there's a lot of people that operate in the gray. Their whole life, everything they do.
I think life is gray to an extent. So I think I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I also think it's a matter of perspective. Like, not everything is a 4-stroke gas engine.
Yeah.
A 4-stroke gas engine is black and fucking white.
Yeah.
Here's the diagram. Here's where the parts go.
Yep.
If you don't put these parts exactly
Not
here,
gonna work.
correct.
Yeah.
Right? Black and white.
Yep.
So the people who are good mechanics, good
Yeah.
with, they're very black and white thinking
Yep.
type of people.
Yep.
Then you have salespeople, right? And
Crazy people like you.
Hey,
Yeah.
salespeople get a bad rep
Really?
in general, I think. And
No.
and I think you should cut some salespeople a little more slack, because here's the deal: they ain't smart enough to fix your engine, but they're gonna hold the door open for you.
Yeah. No. I'm not against salespeople. They're good people.
Most of them, there's some absolute sleazeballs out there, and that's kind of what ruins the reputation thing. But I guess there are certain things that I guess are gray, and to me, it's up to the tournament to define what is black and white, and how that is defined. If you miss too many things, it makes the gray area bigger than it should be.
Yeah.
And I think they left some room for gray with some open stuff to elite transfers. To me, when you're making that black and white ruling,
Yeah.
people who are narcissists, people who like want to gain an unfair advantage, or look at a fair advantage, however you look at it, I don't view that. So to me, I guess gray can be looked at as purely negative, but to me, it depends on intentions.
Well, they always say if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, though, right?
I fucking think that's a horrible. That's a horrible philosophy.
Me too, but it's
because nobody wants to cheat.
No.
Well, maybe some people do, but I want to win, like, and feel like the full grace of that, like, and when I put my head on the pillow that night, like, feel good about every second of it, and not have any second thoughts.
No one
guesses.
can come back after you.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Yep. Or there's nothing that nobody could take that away from me.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess calling the tournament director to see if I can use a pair of snorkel goggles is a gray to me. That is an example of like, intentions are good, gray.
Yeah.
You said I can't use a flogger. I'm wondering if I can use a snorkel. To me,
did he let you?
He let James, and James won the tournament with a snorkel.
Yeah.
Bruised ribs from Mark Shirley holding his legs all day. They sight fished in
worked
3-footers. He worked for it.
Yeah.
But I guess that's and then another example is James Chapman again with the poor man's hydrowave.
Yeah.
Which, have you ever heard of the poor man's hydrowave?
You told me the story, but I forgot it. So tell it again.
To me, your fucking Tompkins, McKinney fucks, like, won't even, that's not how they think. Like, they think in the, like these types of people you're talking about think in the bad gray.
Yeah.
There is examples of good gray, and in my mind, it's both my best stories for it are James Chapman. 1, the poor man's hydrowave. 2, the snorkel. Poor man's hydrowave is if I catch a little smallmouth, or if I catch a smallmouth, can I put it on a stringer
Oh yeah, I remember this story now. That's crazy.
and let it swim around the boat.
And the tournament director said that was okay.
Yes.
Wow, that's a loose.
As long as we
that's
didn't have our limit. So you could do it till you had your limit, right? Because, So, yeah.
That makes sense.
So,
I mean, not at all.
the
But
trick it would be is you catch a little
yeah,
smallmouth, little active one.
yeah. Just put it on a stringer. Like,
Well, you put it in the
What-
live well
what-
when you go, but when you get to a spot, you put it on the stringer
What
and it
about dive?
activates and calls the other ones in.
what about died on your stringer? Then you're stuck with that little thing.
Well, that was part of it. Is we
Yeah.
got to keep the little guy alive all day and healthy, which is
Yeah.
why we were careful about how you did it
Yeah.
and all that. I mean, it's a little 14-incher typically, but
Yeah. Do you still do that today?
I cannot confirm or deny. But if I do, I call the tournament director in advance.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is like how smallies fall out to the boat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that like when they're hanging around the boat, that little bastard will activate them.
So you just
And then
have a
you throw it,
guy. You just have a guy hanging a.
No,
a
you tie
minnow.
it to a cleat.
Yeah, but you
but
just
yeah.
have a guy hanging a minnow. over
Oh,
the
all kinds
side.
of tricks
Yeah,
at that
just
point.
like-
It totally changes the game.
Yeah, I can
Totally
see that.
changes the environment.
I never thought that'd be legal.
Here's the deal. Me either, to be honest with you, but
Yeah.
there's no rules against it.
Did anyone see you guys doing this and turn you in, or no?
We asked in advance.
Okay. So no one saw you and turned you in, though.
There's no rule against it.
Yeah, I'm not saying there was. I'm just thinking someone might see you do it and they'd be like,
Oh,
really
I would
mad.
I would assume, and I don't think anybody saw us with that kind of mentality anyway.
Okay.
I also don't think we were like blatant about it. It's a
Yeah.
good trick. You don't want to show everybody.
Oh God, Teal, you're crazy.
I'm not crazy. That's all James, man. But I guess my point is like Dean Capra, Ted Capra. I mean, those guys had pushed boundaries. The people you
Absolutely.
fished with.
Absolutely.
So
there's a
like,
lot of people that
are
push
there?
boundaries.
I guess when you're talking about the gray, do you think that's all ill intention? And I guess how do you feel about that? Because I mean, two of your
don't-
fishing partners, there's rules made strictly. They're called
Absolutely.
Capra rules.
Absolutely. Like I don't think any. I mean, for the most part, I don't think many people are actually trying to break rules. I think they're just trying to. They're so competitive, they just can't help themselves, right? Like they're. Well, that's a good blow.
Cut. Might cut that blow. Yeah,
So-
'tis
so-
the season.
Yeah, so I don't like, I've hung out with Trey a bunch. I think he's a good kid, honestly. I think Trey, he's always been nothing but nice to me. His mom's super nice. I mean, we're on the same team with FXR, and, I think it's, you can't really believe everything that everyone says unless you actually see it with your eyes, right? I mean, there's a lot of speculations about everyone in fishing, especially, I've gone through it on Minnetonka. I've seen, like Cody Drazel, when he start fishing, start doing good, everyone's like, oh, he's stealing my spots. He's doing that. That's just the common, when young people start doing well,
Yeah.
that's just kind of the common theme of it, right? Like they have to be doing
Funny
something
that you say that, because there is, dude. That's
Yeah.
gone on since I was a kid.
forever. I think it's gone on forever.
Them old guys do not like any new kid coming up doing well. Have you
No.
noticed that?
well, you're taking on their spotlight, right? Like, they're used to getting it all, and then there's some kid coming in that, you could say a million things about him, and he's a young kid, and yeah, they're just it seems like in our sport, it was no different when I first started fishing in Minnesota. I was 18, and Paul Newman was the next youngest person, and he's 10 years older than me. Back when I started, it was like a 40-year-old man's sport. Like, no one fished. It was like everyone. He doesn't work. I went practicing on Minnetonka every night after work for 3 hours. Like, that's what I did all summer long.
That's
Try-
not growth strategy.
Trying to get better, just trying to. I had no clue. My dad didn't bass fish. My great grandpa, supposedly, I never met him, fished bass on Waconia with a frog. Like, with
Did you bring your
cane
boat to
pole.
work? Were you bringing the boat to work
Oh,
type
yeah.
or go? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I respect the bring your boat to work guys. You bring your boat to work guys out there,
Oh, yeah.
I salute you.
Yeah, I mean, like, I was driven, though. And
Yeah,
I mean, it was
yeah.
like, and there's very few, and then you get to a point, and it's like,
Hey guys, Aaron Teal here with Vocelka Fishing and Customs here, and excited to talk to you about my new signature series rod, the Puppet Master. My number one confidence technique is by far offshore power finesse fishing, so we've spent a lot of time and a lot of years creating the perfect bottom contact power finesse rod, specifically designed to fish 3/8 to 3/4 ounce football jigs, tubes, swing heads, dragging a swim bait on the bottom, and any bait that you need to manipulate with your hand and land that fish. This rod is perfect for it. The big thing that we found that was an issue with other rods is they were either too crisp and sensitive, where they were too fast, or they weren't quite sensitive enough and they had the right action. So what Dane built with this rod is the most sensitive bottom contact rod I've ever held in my hands. But the big thing is, on a long cast, it's got the power to drive that hook home, but more importantly, it's got a parabolic action that's going to bend deep down in the rod to make sure that, let's say, football jig or goby tube isn't popping that smallmouth's mouth open and keeping that bait in the back of their head where it belongs, allowing you to have increased leverage and landing more bass. You're going to have to pry this rod from my cold dead hands. This is the Puppet Master. You can find it on VocelkaFishing.com or at Waypoint Angler Supply. Check them out.
it all pays off. But then everyone's like, oh, you must have cheated to get here. You don't work, or you don't do this, you don't do that. Well, over time, you beat them enough and you gain their respect, right? Like,
Yep.
that's just how it works.
Yep. Respect. It takes more than one win to earn that.
Yeah, it's not, I've seen hundreds of anglers come and go in the Midwest. I mean, there's a whole bunch of comers and a whole bunch of goers.
Well, speaking of which, I mean, I grew up, Pat Martin was in my club. Doug Petrak.
Yep.
You know who that was?
Yep.
Nick Gross.
Yep.
A lot of Ron Mayer, a lot of good
Yep.
anglers in the area, and I guess I felt I can relate with what you're saying.
Yeah, they just, and it's...
Because I don't think I was liked by probably anybody when I was a kid first coming into that stuff and doing well.
No,
I just don't think...
And it's a different time, especially these young kids in the elites, because they may not be arrogant, they may not be this, they may come across like that, and they're working for sponsors also, so they're trying to get noticed, right? Like, they're trying to make a name for themselves. It may look arrogant, it may look cocky, and maybe they are a little bit, but everyone's out there for the same purpose and trying to win. I mean, that's just what it is.
Competitive nature of it, dude.
Yeah, like, you're trying to win, and it comes and goes, and it'll be really interesting when some of these younger kids, they've had it, like, from high school on up, all they've done is win, right? That's all they've done. It'll be interesting when they don't. Like, are they strong enough to keep going? Are they mentally prepared for that? Because it's going to happen. Like, you can't win every tournament. You can't be in the top 10 and 90% of elite tournaments you fish your whole life. That ain't going to work.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. That's what part being a fan, like, that's what I look forward to watching. Like, who's strong enough? Who's gonna keep it rolling?
It's the most testing sport, and I can attest. I've had some tougher years, or tougher than I would ever want them to be, and it doesn't feel good. Like, so if you're
no, it sucks.
And I'm no father giller. I'm no guy who's used to winning all the time. I feel like I've clawed my way to where I got, and then I feel like I'm just trying to claw my way back there so I can keep feeling like I'm getting better. But it's like, I agree with you, man. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not for the weak mind. It's not for the weak soul.
I mean, there's nothing worse than getting your teeth kicked in and have to turn around and drive 20 hours home. I mean, that whole ride home, all you think about is what you could have done better, and how are you going to make it better. I mean, at first you're like, oh, I just want to quit, and then it goes into like, how do I get better, and how do I mean, what people underestimate is staying focused, but not like, you got to ride this. You can't be too high and you can't be too low type thing, right?
Yeah.
Like
Level.
you go into a tournament way overconfident, you're gonna get your teeth kicked in every time.
Those are the worst.
You go in there with low expectations, not much going, you're probably gonna do pretty well.
Maybe better than you thought you were going to do.
Yeah, because when you put those expectations on yourself, they never seem to work out the way you want them to.
There's like a middle ground for me between the two things you said, and it's rare when I find it. It's a beautiful thing, but I feel like every tournament I have is between my ears. In my mind, I feel like I have the ability.
It is.
You have the ability. Like every tournament we have, we have the ability. It's between our ears, man.
It is.
I can catch a bass. You can catch a bass.
Oh, yeah.
Like if it's in a foot of water or 40 feet of water, you and I could catch a bass.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it boils down to a lot of decisions, and I mean, what the Champs Tour is like a prime example for all this.
fuck.
Like, it's very, last year's my return to the Champs Tour after a couple of years traveling, and
Good year.
Yeah, it was decent.
I mean, I know how you hold yourself to a standard, and I know how I hold myself to a standard, and I know how I'd feel. I would say the same thing in your position, but like me looking at you, you had a good year.
Yeah, it was a good year. I mean, there was definitely room to improve. Like
I'm with you.
I really like Gull. I'm kind of on it. Made some poor decisions. Like, could have probably capped off a dub there. I mean, ended up doing well, but I gave some away there.
Where'd you end up on Boji?
I think like 12th maybe.
Okay. So
Boji.
I can remember where you did on Boji. I can remember because that Gull was my bomb.
Yeah, like Gull was good. Like I mean, I think I got three out of 4. I got checks. I mean, the only one I really
you were cashed on Gull.
I did. I was 9th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a bomb.
No, I didn't say I bombed Gull. I bombed 1. I got 3 checks out of 4. So
sure.
The river, honestly, the river was the one I really thought I was going to do really well at. Like I had the scoping deal, and it was really easy. Like really easy. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm going to just wear them out. And that was the worst tournament I did. Like, but it was, the one.
Did you have a good morning?
No. What's his name who won? Like,
Walker?
I stopped there's 2 points that were super good. I stopped at the first one that was open. He motored around me. And basically won the tournament there. I mean,
damn.
So I just, in practice, they were blowing up, eating everywhere. Didn't think it'd matter. Day of the tournament, they blew up by him. That's it. Like, they were all like right there.
Positioned a little different.
Yeah, and it was one of the, down south, it's like scope, where I think like classic bass, like I think scoping can hurt you. Like
it can hurt you a lot.
Yes,
and
like
the second half of that tournament, it hurt me.
Yeah, like I don't think you can't. I don't know. I guess I'm not good enough at it or something. But it's like every time I rely on scoping in classic bass, I get hurt.
I mean, it got me to 5th place in the first half, and then it got me down to 14th place in the second half. And I guess I ran the wrong way second half was all. But
yeah, and that's the thing with classic bass. It's no different than the championship. Like, I picked the wrong side of the lake. Like, I made a mistake, right? And it's easy to sit back and look at it and say I could have changed it. I did it what I thought was best at the moment, and it was not.
I wish we could have, like, it'd be cool if you could have a time machine and just, like, let's say even if you only got 2 redos a year, if I could have like 2 tournament redos a year, I'd take it. If I could have one, give me one.
I would
redo.
Like one every 10 years.
Like,
I'd be
I
happy.
know what happens if I do what I did. So
but
give me an
it's
exact redo, same weather, same everything.
It's no different.
I want to see what happens.
It's no different. You can have the whole field sitting
do
here.
You go win though, like being able to look back like that and redo it. Do you think?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Like, fuck. Because you
And-
maybe got to watch the footage even. I don't know.
You're like, I don't know if you win, and I don't want to take that. I don't want to take that away
like,
from
do
the
you go
winner.
cut? I don't go cut the guy off or nothing. I just
No.
go like.
But the way Minnow broke down, like I would have started right where it all went down, and
I would have started 50 yards to my left, where I thought it was all like.
yeah,
I thought it was all gonna Figgy and me and Kevin Fassbend. We're looking at each other like, which one of us is like?
Yeah.
We're all like,
Yeah,
it's
ready
gonna
to
go
go.
down
Yeah.
right here,
Yeah.
and then shoot it like 50 yards away.
no, he starts going down where he was.
It was going down right there, dude.
Yeah, and the crazy part, the only reason why I say that is where I wore him out the end of the first half. Like I
yeah.
made a big run. No one even fished at the second half. Like I
Glenwood
could.
side,
What, the south side?
Glenwood or Starbucks side.
Where we took off.
Yeah.
Like it was.
That's
like,
what I was thinking.
Like
Just making sure.
It was like
It's not a big run.
no. I mean, it was.
That's no run.
I pulled
Put
up
the trolling
there.
motor in the water.
Yeah, basically, I pulled up there with an hour left or hour and a half left in the first period, and pretty much caught him every cast till I had to go in. I'm like, ooh, I should have been here an hour earlier, or you know what it's like, but those are the decisions that make anglers. So
Let's talk about some things you lean on in Minnesota, like largemouth fishing versus things you lean on down south. Like, because it's a difference. To your point,
yeah, it's a
like,
huge difference.
you don't scope every tournament up here.
no,
Like, a couple of them you can scope. Like St. Croix, I feel like it was a factor. And,
Oh, yeah.
like, there's places where it's a factor, but Bogey, not really.
Bogey, honestly, like the second half I scoped, and that's the only reason I got back into it. But I was not. What the big misconception of scoping, especially when it comes to grass and other things, is seeing the fish, right? Like Okoboji, the
It
second
was structure scoping.
yeah, like the second half, I just ran out of options. So I just went to like decent fishing water where it wasn't blowing. I just looked for weed clumps, and I caught the brakes off them. I'm like, God, and another, one of those deals where I did it for the last hour. I'm like, just too slow to make the adjustments. But, and that's something like I was talking to Osby about it. He's like, after the tournament, he's like, where'd you catch them? Because we were rooming together. I'm like, I threw out everything I had and just went and caught them. He's like, how do you do that? I'm like, well, if I'm not catching them, I have to do something else.
So that's interesting you say that. And I guess, so I found like, I had 3 or 4 isolated grass clumps, right? That I feel like them first summer schools were
Yep.
loaded up on.
Yep.
3 out of the 4 of those grass
Nothing.
clumps tournament day, gone.
Yep.
What the fuck happened to them? And the only one that was there, it's because there was a sunken boat lift.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
And I caught all my fish off that sunken boat lift, and I didn't go look for new clumps.
Yep.
So you can probably see where I'm going with that.
Yep.
Why did those clumps leave? How did those clumps leave?
I-
and how did you find those new clumps?
all I know, so I started again on the top 5 and on
East
Okoboji.
side?
I did.
Same.
And I really didn't have much going over there. I actually found some batters in the way up lake on perspective, right? So as far up
I'm
as you
curious
could go.
about this,
yeah, as
actually.
far up as you could go. I had nothing going.
That was
at
the
all.
area I wanted to practice, never made it to.
Yeah, I had nothing going on. Like basically nothing. Like I couldn't figure out that
I had
side
one
for
spot, and I caught him there.
Yeah, it all went down in one spot there. Or
Well-
you had 2 spots. You had that little sneaky deal. But it
On my scale, they were all 2. The amount I weighed at 114 on that spot tournament day,
Yeah.
I swear to God, my hand scale was 2 to 3 ounces heavier.
Yeah.
Because I caught 50 plus bass.
Yeah.
Like, and that 2 pound minimum thing.
Oh yeah.
I'd be
It
so
killed you.
curious if it was normal. If it was normal, who would have won? Because I know James dealt with that. I know a couple
Oh yeah.
guys dealt with
I
that.
caught,
Anyway,
yeah.
it doesn't fucking matter. I love the 2 pound minimum. by the
Yeah,
way.
and we ran. So I ran way up there. No one else went up there, and it was. I thought there was a lot more fish on beds. I had an area. I caught a few. Like I think I only caught maybe 6 the first half. Really poor, right? So second half, I had a bunch of weed clumps. like out from the access. Like I don't Everett Bay there, like on the main lake there.
Yep.
And those weed clumps were pretty dead. Like I caught a few, but it wasn't like practice at all.
On Bogie, like
Bogie.
right in front of takeoff.
Yes. And it wasn't near what I thought. The smallmouth were all just done and gone and really picked
Moyna
over.
fucked him up there then in the morning.
He did. He was kind of in further. I was out. And so I basically just ran out of options and went to calm water where I could actually fish. And I got up there and there was a couple guys way out in the lake. I just went up on this big flat and I didn't catch many. I'd like catch one or two out of each clump, but they were all keepers. Was the nice part. So it was like they were like 2-3s, right? Like not big, but And it was just one of those deals where I wish I would have had way more time to do it. But you look back to it, you learn from it, and
I thought I was gonna weigh more bass than I did on the clean side.
Yeah. It got pretty grimy.
My quality was
afternoon.
good.
Yeah.
My quality was good. A lot of the fish were over 3 to 4 pounders.
Yeah.
The east side, I thought it was going to be, well, I knew if I could get the one spot, I could get a lot of bites, but it ended up being bigger fish on the clean side, which is interesting. I thought it was going to kind of be the other way around.
And that lake, for whatever reason, when we hit it, I don't know, it was the torrential rains or we just hit it at,
so fun.
That is a really, really good lake with a lot of big fish, and it really didn't show that when we were there. I mean, it was decent, but it wasn't like I was expecting. I mean, pre going down there. I mean, I fished Okoboji a bunch in my life, and I don't know it great, but I always caught fish there. And
the lake is so fun with current in play.
Yeah.
I feel like without current in play, the dirty half is probably a lot more fun than it was. Yeah. Like more spread out, right?
Yep.
Like the current really
had them just
shrunk the dirty half.
Yep.
But like there was so many different patterns going on that clean side.
Yep.
Like I wish I would have grabbed my balls and ran my same current pattern because I had it going, and I just didn't have the confidence.
I actually caught some on that side in a little current area. I actually caught two keeper smallies where in a foot of water on it.
Did you catch them on a Senko on that lake?
Yeah.
I didn't. I caught them way better on poop.
Yeah.
I think you could have got third place if you were throwing poop. That's what I got. I got third place throwing.
Probably.
But for whatever reason in that current,
they liked the poop.
They liked a heavier gravity style Japanese, or
Yeah, they were.
It was the first time I've seen where, because usually up here, that's how I grew up. Like got little sneak hole spots like that around here. A wacky Senko, you can't beat it, or a slug or something like that. And it was like, it was weird.
Wasn't good,
comparatively speaking. I could get a bite.
Yeah.
But when there's 35 of them up there, and I can catch one on a Senko, and I can catch 35 of them on
poop. Yeah.
I didn't realize that shit I caught them on the east side. I didn't realize that I could catch them better, if that makes sense. In my mind, till after the tournament, and I think I could have done better in the tournament had I realized I don't give a fuck who fished this.
Yeah,
I can catch them.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's kind of
there's something to be learned about that.
Absolutely, that's what I've learned down south. Like if you can't go behind people and catch them, you're not gonna stay there very long, right? Like it's not. There's no secret spot in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's just not. Like there's areas, there's fish. And there's a lot of areas there's nothing. So,
well, let's talk about some tricks you use when you're fishing behind people. For me, I always like to pretend I'm fishing behind myself.
Yeah.
Because I refish a lot of areas. Yeah. So, I look at it as
you're a recycler.
I am. Yeah, I think a lot of good anglers are.
Yep.
I mean, timing to me is a big factor with spots, but sometimes you realize you fish through the spot the way you fish, and you're fishing behind yourself now. And I guess when you're fishing behind people, that's not always the case because they maybe didn't fish the way you would fish it the first time you fished it.
Yeah, I mean,
how are you fishing it? What are some tricks you've learned? Because you have to fish in the fucking belly of the beast of the Bassmaster Opens, and to me, there's some nuggets people can take from that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the big thing, I mean, last year was the mooch minnow. There's obviously
I bet that's a sneaky
Nico.
janitor. Did you call it the janitor?
the janitor, the worm. So the
Oh,
Rapple
I felt
worm.
like the mooch minnow was a good cleanup tool. you know?
It is a very good cleanup.
Carry
tool.
on, I'm sorry.
But the janitor worm is also. I mean that whole lineup of the Crush City, like the janitor worm doesn't get near as much love. I mean you're gonna see it a lot this year, but
last year you're catching them on a mooch minnow.
yeah,
That
mooch minnow is pretty much the go-to. I mean everywhere we gone. I mean,
well, if they weren't Crush City folk, nobody like that was a weapon for you last year because
it was a weapon and
nothing like it.
No, it has a different role than everything else. And, you know, I did really good on Santee last year.
Sure.
Had a shot to do really well there. Kind of, I freaking messed up. But honestly, that was just getting more we just got our teeth kicked in down in Florida. Say, Okoboji, you know, Scott Martin won by 4,000 pounds.
Oh,
and
yes.
I actually got...
Sneak boat.
Yeah, I actually got onto that deal the second day of that tournament. I was in an area. I saw what I wasn't on the quality of fish he was on, but I was on like 3-pounders. So the second day I made a big comeback. I made up like 80 spots the second day. So it was a good, and it was the first time I really used perspective to how those guys were using it and got pretty confident with it. Went to Santee and used it not as much as I should have. Like I look back at that, I should have done more of it. I should have done better with it. But Santee the second day, so the first day I had almost 25 pounds, right? So I had a good bag first day. Second day I go in this area, I see a bed, I throw up there. You couldn't see him with your eyes. Throw up there. I catch the male. I can tell it's the male. It's 6 pounds. Next cast, I hook the female, and it's somewhere between 8 and 10 pounds, right? Ginormous. Big mama. I actually like touched it. You
touched her?
Well, it was on. Yeah, it was on a spinning pole.
Why didn't you grab the net? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no net. So I get her, and those big ones, like I haven't caught a ton, but I've caught enough to know, like. If you survive the first 5 seconds, they get pretty dormant. Like they don't go, yeah, they don't go too crazy. The 6-pounders are the crazy ones. 5, 6-pounders, like they'll put you through it. But
still got that testosterone.
Yeah, but the big ones get tired real quick if you can hold on to.
Approaching menopause, you know.
Yeah. So I like get her, and you know, I'm thinking she's about done. I go down. I'm old, and my back always hurts. So I'm like leaning down, trying to grab her. I mean, if I was a young kid, I would have had her, just bear hugged her. Going down to grab her, and she got one little fight left in her and pulled and just popped the hook out. I'm like, oh my God.
No.
I stand up and look 10 feet over. I catch a 6-pounder my next cast. So I probably should have had like 20 plus pounds of 3 bass in the first 10 minutes.
Oh.
So it was like kind of defeating, kind of struggled the second day a little bit, but cashed a good check.
A good check.
Yeah.
What were you using on then?
Oh, that was Senko fishing.
Okay, hell yeah. That's, I mean, dude, Florida, Senko and a fluke is money in Florida.
Well, it was South Carolina, but yeah, it was, I mean, generally a Senko plays pretty good for me too. Like especially in the Midwest, like that's a go-to for me.
Yeah.
But I honestly, last year, a lot of my fish came in the Midwest. One of my sneaky little deals is, why would I tell anyone you guys are all fishing against me? No, just kidding. So
because
I'm kind.
Because you're kind and you're building a brand and you're a future Elite Series angler, and you know, Milliken got where he was
by sharing
for a
it
reason.
all. Yeah, and
you don't have to share all of it.
No. I mean,
2/3 to me is fair.
Yeah, like one of my go-tos up here that I think a lot of people overlook is a power shot. Like I'm a, like, you know, Gull Lake, prime example. Like Gull Lake, I knew the second half it'd go down on docks. Like I know that. Like I've done very well in that lake fishing docks. But from traveling around, like I never get a fish flip grass anymore. So I'm like, I'm just gonna flip grass all day long. That's just what I'm gonna do. If I run across the right fish, I'm gonna do really well. And I had my chances. I But that power shot, and I mix it up quite a bit. What people, they'll get stuck on one thing. I like, the janitor worm was a good one. Also, like that G Kraken. Like that G Kraken to me is just, that's crack for fish, right?
No cut?
No cut.
Okay.
Yeah. Like,
I was not expecting that from you.
oh, I shouldn't say that, should I?
I don't know. That's up to you. I'm just like,
I'll cut that out. Yeah, you better cut that.
well, no. We didn't
Yeah.
say which G-Crack.
No, we didn't say which one.
Okay, so that was my prelude to do you want to keep going on that?
Oh, I better not, probably.
We'll just say G-Crack. Your power shot and G-Crack, and you found some magic with it. With a certain G-Crack bait that we won't mention.
Yeah, we won't mention.
If you buy enough G-Crack, you might find it.
Yeah, we won't mention it. And it's not like I catch all my fish on that stuff. Like, I mean, I switch up a lot. Like, I mean,
Well, you mentioned janitor. You mentioned
Yeah, like-
there's a lot of ways to skin the cat, and you
Yes.
mentioned a multi-approach.
Yes, like, I think the biggest thing for me is even on Minnow when I was catching them every cast, I would switch up colors on the janitor. I'd switch bait profiles a lot.
When you're tuning a school,
Yes.
in my mind, maybe in 1999,
You
could
didn't
you
have to
use
change.
one lure?
Yes, for sure.
But nowadays,
You
got
have
to tune
to.
that school.
You have to tune the school. You have to not get them used to what you're throwing.
Correct.
And you have to vary, different plastic styles. I mean, the one
Different
thing,
fall rates, different plastic styles.
Yes.
You name it.
yeah, the one thing though, I think why I have a lot of success power shot and is having the right hook. Like VMC Redline makes this 1/0 hook, and it's in between like a straight shank and a Nico hook.
Sure.
But I use that hook on I have a special rod made and everything for power shotting.
Cool.
And I always power shot with 20-pound suffix. I don't dink around with it. Like, you watch me, I boat flip everything.
Straight 20-pound fluoro.
Yep. Straight 20-pound fluoro I use.
There's something magic about the vibration you're able to get
Yes.
with the twang
Yep.
of full fluoro versus a leader.
I'm not a huge bait caster leader guy. I'm getting
I'm not
more
either.
into it.
I'm
But
not either.
honestly, even picking up a jig and stuff nowadays, I go to 20-pound fluoro a lot more than anything else.
I prefer it. I fucking hate the FG knot, and I suck at timing.
I can tie FG knots all day long.
You can?
That doesn't bother me at all. I just like the feeling of it different. And then if you're dock fishing or something, I think you have a better chance of 20-pound fluoro than having 20-pound fluoro tied to 40-pound braid. If you're way up in there, that braid's not that resistant. Like, you come across metal or something with braid, you can have some issues.
So that's a big debate, I would say, right? And I'm
Yeah.
more, I don't know where I'm at on it, right? Because you've got like your Noah Schultz 50-pound braid,
Yep.
straight braid,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Then you've got your Tonka guy who's going to tell you 20 to 25 pounds straight fluoro.
No.
Due to the abrasion resistance of it.
Yep.
And I guess I see both sides of it.
Oh.
To me, what makes no sense is the baitcaster leader on docks because of it scrapes the knot. If anything,
it
you've got a
scrapes-
bulge. You've got
Yeah.
a bulge. And I guess pick one.
Yeah.
If for me,
I mean, if I'm fishing dirty enough, like, I'm old school. Like, I've gotten a lot of bass on Minnetonka and 65-pound braid. A lot of them. If I'm flipping, most of the time, if I'm flipping or dunking or heavy vegetation, it's 65-pound braid. Like, I don't mess around with it. But if, there's a lot of other guys that don't do that. So it's all your preference at that point. But I do like frog fishing and stuff to lighten it up a little bit.
sure, 40.
Yeah, 40, 50.
Cuts some pads, cuts the...
It cuts stuff better. You can cast a little further. I mean, it works well, but it's all what you get used to and what you like, and obviously changing. I mean, there's a lot of ways of catching fish, and if you get stuck in the same old patterns, like I mean, you're seeing a lot of it. I mean, with even classic bass, like, you're seeing the change with baits. I mean, tube craws for a million years have always been, and there's I mean, Figgy, he doesn't set it down. Like, he goes straight after him with a 2 Pro. Like, that's what he does.
I mean, one
Yeah.
whitefish, not long ago with the craw tube.
Yes.
I still throw a craw tube, but I'm finding it to be a little less effective, less of the time is all. There's still days where, to me, you can't beat it.
Well, and there's definitely, with Champs Tour.
As anglers, we develop special bonds with our equipment. There's something magical when you find that perfect jig rod and reel combo for a technique that elevates your confidence on the water. Whether it's a perfectly balanced, crisp, and sensitive jig rod that gives you the highest level of control over your bait, allows you to feel every grain of sand, every bite, and allows you to drive that hook clean, or a rod with the perfect action and taper that seems to keep your chatterbait, swim bait, or whatever it is in the back of the bass's head where it belongs no matter where you throw it, or a rod that allows you to effortlessly cast a lighter bait you used to cuss at on your old combo. These types of magical bonds are rare to find in a mass-produced sweatshop, which is why Vocelka Fishing and Customs came to existence, with the sole purpose of bringing you closer to your passion by enhancing the bond with you, your rod, and the bass. Confidence is everything in bass fishing, and there's no bigger boner buster than losing a big fish, not feeling like you can present your bait correctly. The list goes on and on. Mr. Vocelka is a full-blown artesian craftsman who can build you the perfect rod, no matter the size or action, custom, exactly the way you want it. He also has a wide variety to choose from right on his website, including fan favorites like the 8-foot hair jig rod, the drop shot rod, swim bait rod, the chatter chicken rod, the MH workhorse, and more. Even ice fishing. You do the whole frozen Swiss cheese thing, the ice fishing. Seen grumpy old men? Well, you can send that jiggle stick back to the antique store because Mr. Vocelka builds custom ice rods in all sizes and actions too. So head on over to his website, vocelkafishing.com. That's VOCELKA fishing.com to enhance your confidence on the water, feel your passion, and catch more bass, baby.
It is all you can catch, right? So to me, I'm going to get more bites on a power shot or a Texas rigged or something littler in that nature. Like I was talking to a guy about this the other day. He's like, do you change how you practice for Champs Tour? And I'm like, I don't think it changes at all. Like I don't tear apart the water any different in Champs Tour. I may fish different during the tournament, but I don't.
Lake split completely makes me practice different, dude.
Well, yes.
Like, because
that's obvious.
You're now practicing, like, you ain't gonna practice Wilson, Steamboat, some of that stuff like you would in a 5-fish tournament, like you do in Champs Tour. Maybe a little bit, but not the time you spend, because you might have to spend your whole half there.
Yeah, you spend time in areas where you normally wouldn't spend time, for sure.
That's what Champs Tour does.
That changes, but the biggest change to me is the way I attack tournament day. Like, I definitely, if I'm going to go fish a 5-fish tournament in the middle of summer on a grass lake somewhere in the Midwest, like, I'm going to throw a big hair jig most of the day. And a 5-fish dirt, right? Like, I'm going to throw something to catch big fish, where in Champs Tour, you don't really, you roll up to a spot, you may chuck it a few times, but you're not going to just sit there and die with it either.
Valid.
Like, I don't find myself going out to, like, Gull Lake, though, and saying, hey, I know the fish, the littler ones like to be in this depth range. I'm not going to check everything, right? Like, I still check the same, I feel like.
Back to power shot in a little bit.
It's a good weapon.
Yeah. So, like, you're employing multiple power shots. How many power shots are you having on the deck for that Champs Tour event?
How
are you varying them?
I usually only have 2.
Okay.
And I generally, They both have 20-pound. I have one, or I will vary the hook depending on, sometimes I'll power shot a bigger bait. Just even after I wear them out for a while, I'll throw something big in there. A lot of times I'll get them fired back up.
Sure.
So I do have one, and I usually use like 5/8, like 5/8, 3/4. Like, and last year's a BMC came out with tungsten that you can actually tie on, like your drop shot weight.
I bet that's nice.
Life changing.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like I don't do the clip on anymore. Like, I will not do it.
What shape do you like for power? Because we're talking into cover, into grass.
I just do
you know?
an egg shape.
Egg
like,
shape?
Yeah.
Not a so like. I mean, there's a lot of like, to me it's skinny or egg, right? And
Yeah.
at first when I was younger, I liked
Skinny.
the skinny.
Yeah. And
And
now
I've
you're
c-
getting bigger.
I feel like I'm getting
you.
smarter. Like I like the egg shape
Yeah.
so much better.
Well, yeah, I got you. Like, more room around there.
I don't know. I feel like I'm just the fact that the weight, the skinny one, that it's not flush on the bottom for me.
Well,
Like wrecks my feel a little bit.
Well,
I feel better with the egg.
I think with the with the egg too, you create more bottom content with it, or
Contact.
contact.
Let them
Sorry.
know you're there.
Well, no, I just think, I mean, this is a juicy little tidbit, but I just think if you can not move it, if you're not moving that weight and you're moving your bait, I mean, that's the secret of power shot, right? Like,
Well, the drop shot. That's kind of drop shot in 101, isn't it?
absolutely, but you watch, I mean, I have people on my boat all the time, and you watch them with it, and they don't get the concept of it, really. Like, yeah, you can catch fish the other way, no doubt about it, but if you can drop, especially flipping grass, like, if you can drop that in there and just shake it and not move it at all, one thing, you ain't dragging into more grass.
Yep.
Another thing, you're drawing them to you, right? Like, it's
How far will you throw it?
Oh, I usually pitch it about 20, 30 feet.
So you're not making.
Not super close, not super far.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. Have you ever found, like, how often? Because I've found with the drop shot, and when I seem to, like, the couple times I've, like, man, they're not eating a drop shot,
No.
and people are catching them on it.
Oh,
It's like you have to hold it and not
Top.
shake it.
Yeah.
And, like, how often, like, what are you seeing, and or are you pretty consistent? And then
I shake the hell out of everything I fish.
Okay.
I'm a shaker,
I got
right?
it,
Like,
got
it
it.
doesn't matter if I'm fishing a jig. I'm just like this. It doesn't matter what
you
I
keep
fish.
slack. I'm a shaker on slack and a polar. I'm a shaker and a slow polar. It's
Yeah.
because I got the way I learned to fish a jig was from Doug Petrak. Doug
Nope.
Petrak shook a jig
No.
without moving it.
Nope.
And really good slack line guy.
Nope.
And then Tony Hatton,
Nope.
who's the best jig slow polar I've learned. And I
Nope.
think been fortunate to learn from both of them to
Nope.
know that both work. And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like you have a tendency. I feel like I have a tendency to do one or the other too much sometimes.
Well,
You know,
I think I vary a lot with water time of year. Honestly, is what really gauges how I fish a jig.
that's I think a really good tidbit.
Yeah, like I don't, cold water. I absolutely drag a jig a lot more.
Let the jig do the fucking
Yeah,
talking.
you're
Round rubber. I mean,
yeah, you're just not. You don't want to be like the life of the party, then, right? Like, you're kind of just you're the plain Jane guy sitting in the back,
yeah, you're Bill.
Yeah,
Or
and
whoever Bill
yeah,
is. Sorry,
whoever.
Bill. Sorry to all the Bills out there. You're probably pretty fun guys.
And then, when the water heats up, everything's active. It's like you can't move it enough, right? Like,
Well, it's same with weight, right? Like spring, pre-spawn, post-spawn, like that's when your quarter ounce Texas rig really seems to, like Bogie, for example, then post-spawn fish, slower fall, made a huge difference for me, right? Mid-August, Lake Minnetonka, flipping grass, like that slow fall, you might not get any to bite. Three-quarter,
Reaction.
you might get, a quarter of them to bite. You might get 4 bites on that spot on Lake Minnetonka. My goodness.
you might go up to an ounce and a quarter and get 8 bites.
Well, I mean, I was going to ask about the skirt material, but maybe that's a better question of how heavy is, like, maybe we aren't going heavy enough, Bradley. Maybe jig companies aren't looking at this concept correctly. I mean,
Well, I think there's two. I mean,
there's two ends of the spectrum, right?
there is. Like,
Always.
I think what you're seeing a lot of now, playing down south, which I always tends to play up here sooner or later.
Yeah.
You're seeing the bushy jig. You're seeing the big jig, slow fall, just in your face type thing, right? And there's, a couple guys being very successful, and that's all they do. And you also, and if I'm fishing a brush pile down south, and there's 75 other guys behind me fishing that same brush pile, because that's how it works down there. It's like,
That's crazy.
you have a secret brush pile out there, yeah. You sit
No
there.
secret
If you
brush
put a
pile.
trail camera by that thing, it'd be like doot, doot, all day long. It's like a bus stop in
No
Minneapolis.
secret
right?
brush piles.
There's none. So it's like you gotta go to that brush pile and either fish it really slow, or maybe throw a glide bait, or maybe throw a 2-ounce weight in there and get them to react. Like, if you're fishing brush piles that probably don't have a lot of attention, like, that's when you maybe throw a drop shot in there or something, something you can hook them good, get them out. But if you have to make them react, I mean, dragging that glide bait over them and getting them fired up, big blades, big spinner baits, really good option.
A big, heavy something that
No.
is an overlooked triggering tool.
Well,
Or a really light, the right weight
yeah.
finesse lure,
Yeah, and I learned a lesson on leech this year, like a big lesson. Like, leech, I mean,
What'd you learn?
I did mediocrity on leech, right? For me, I'm like, I needed to top 10 it, so I kind of really went for it, but it didn't.
Hey, I'm proud of you for going for it. That's, to
it-
me,
it-
there's a lot, you should be proud of going for it, because
it didn't pay the bills.
I could have signed up for it, and I've done very well on Leech Lake and gone for it, and I didn't go for it. So I have respect for anybody who grabbed their balls and tried to catch smallmouth all day.
Yeah, like I went for it, and I honestly, like, I thought it was going to go down on a little tiny bait, and in practice it was, and it was really good, and I got my teeth kicked in by guys throwing 7-inch minnows. So, obviously not the winner. I'm just saying people I was fishing around, like, they were throwing
Second through fifth
Yes.
was a 5 to 7 inch minnow.
Yeah, it was big baits, and there's
It was
know,
really
and-
small or really big.
And it's kind of like, I was just sitting out in North Dakota ice fishing with a buddy over the weekend. And I've learned my lesson with ice fishing. Honestly, there's so much that correlates between ice fishing and bass fishing.
Sure.
Like, you fish these walleyes, and when they're not in a mood to bite, I mean, the only thing that really gets them is a gill net, right? Like, they don't want to bite.
Sure.
You can go as small micro as you want.
Mm-hmm.
But you pick up a jigging wrap, when they're not biting, and you whip that thing in front of them, they're going to turn on and eat it every time.
They don't have a choice.
The reaction to it. So
Yeah.
bass are, a lot of times when we're not catching bass, we're like, go smaller, go smaller, go smaller. Sometimes the answer is go bigger.
It's one of the two, it seems like.
It's one of the two for sure.
Seems go lighter and smaller, or bigger, heavier, and yep.
And
You're two in the middle of the spectrum, it seems like at that point.
I am.
Well, we all are, dude.
Yeah.
We all are, because I think most of the fish we target in Minnesota anyway,
aren't that bright.
they're right in the middle of the spectrum.
Well,
And I feel like we drive fish to insanity in pressured fisheries.
Well.
I feel like drive fish to insanity, which means either, if we're talking politics, either the far right or the far left. And if we're talking a spectrum, we're talking a big, heavy fucking dick in your face, or like little twangly little gayest lure you've ever seen. One of the two, right?
one of the two. You have to,
Not
like,
that there's anything wrong with that.
you have to, and that's the one thing that I think from all stages of bass fishing, from the club level weekend guy to the elite guy, like, what separates a lot of that is everyone can catch fish nowadays. Everyone, you can watch, you can YouTube and learn how to do anything.
The learning curve's never been shorter.
Yes, it is. But the guys that can really, that try everything all the time, even if they are biting, like, how do I get a bigger bite? How do I,
Golly, I feel like that's my demise.
Well,
That's me in a nutshell. Is like, even if I'm catching them, I want to catch them better.
yeah, you're always wanting to do better. I mean, sometimes it don't work. Sometimes you drive away from biting fish, and it's never a good idea. But sometimes you do drive away and hit a home run too, you know? So that's what makes fishing so great. Like, there's so many variables. And when you hit all the variables right and win that day or that weekend, I mean, that's what drives all of us.
It's a galaxy, Bradley.
Yeah, it is.
I'm gonna grab. I'm gonna grab another beer. Do you want another beer?
I'm going to go pee quick.
I have to do that too.
All right.
How'd you like the Goldie?
It's super good.
Yeah, made right in Cold Spring.
Really? That's awesome.
Yep. I've got the lager, the heavy one. I've got. They're like 120 or 150 anniversary cans with the loon on them.
Oh, cool.
So yeah,
Is this, how long have they been in business?
120 to 150 years.
That's a long time.
Brewed right in Cold Spring, Minnesota. The
That's
Heartland.
awesome. The Heartland.
The Heartland.
Driving up here today, I didn't know if you gave me the right directions. I was just going down every back road in America, it felt like.
Oh, it took you the back way.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No 55?
No.
Oh.
No, I like back roads.
Me too, dude. You ever go? So I've done this to Florida before.
Oh, no. I
Drive
won't.
to
No.
Florida without a GPS
Oh, God.
and only an atlas. It was a fun trip.
Back in the day, when the
You
first...
should try it.
No. No. I can't even make it there with the GPS hardly. That's what...
GPS has taken me on some shit roads to South Carolina. Shout
Oh, yeah.
out Smoky Mountains.
Oh, yeah. And that's what I can... We had Kenta on the podcast last year, and I'm amazed when Kenta came to the U.S. I mean, this is 20 years ago.
That's crazy.
There was no phone directions, none of that.
No.
And he didn't know English. Like, how the hell did he find his way anywhere? I have no clue.
Dude, that is astonishing in and of itself. That to
Yeah.
me, I mean, tell me one under 25-year-old on the Opens that wouldn't die in the first year.
Everyone.
Every
They'd
single one.
perish.
Yeah. Wesley Gore might survive. That's it.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. It'd be bad. You know the scariest nightmare?
No.
Oh, I always wake up like I didn't graduate high school.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That's like the nightmare you...
That's a lot of it. Or falling. Like,
I'm always in a weird situation in like a weird place like that
I
has
can see
more
that with
places
you.
or doors than
Oh.
like, you know, like a big maze of a place
Oh,
is
scary.
when I'm dreaming. It's usually, yeah. And then there's a bunch of people and yeah, it's like it's like my brain is an airport, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
it
all the
does.
people I know are in the airport.
That's crazy.
And I'm put through various tasks and things. Like I have to free this person,
Yeah.
then I have to like, you know, save myself, and then I
Yeah.
have to kill this guy, and then
Oh, yeah.
like I'm usually in a James Bond movie in my like, that's my brain disguised as an airport. I think
Oh, that could be.
maybe,
That could be.
but dude, I don't like. There's people who can lucid dream. Like,
Yeah.
are you ever conscious in your dream where you can like control it, like, and be like,
Yeah.
I'm dreaming right now, I'm gonna fly, and then you can fly?
Not really. I mean,
But you have lucid dreams?
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you know that's a fucking superpower?
No, it's not.
Dude, it is.
Really?
Lucid dreams? Yes,
Whoa.
dude. I'm telling you right now, you can control your future if you can lucid dream. Because
Yeah.
you're programming your if you can because that's your subconscious, dude. If you can consciously program your subconscious in your sleep,
Wow, you're
that's a
good at it.
superpower.
Oh, it could be. I don't
I've
know.
never done that. I've lucid dreamed one time, and as soon as I started flying, I woke up.
I'm gonna try it. See if I can fly.
So walk me through that though. That is like fascinating to me, dude. Lucid, like, so you've been in a dream, and describe that like you're like, oh, I'm in a dream now.
well, I feel like I'm in a dream, and
Okay.
I feel like I'm awake,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
And it seems like everything's normal,
Uh huh.
and like it's really messed up, and then I wake up, like.
Oh.
So it feels
wait.
like you're awake. like,
Holy shit.
Going on, right?
So you don't even know you're in a dream.
No, you don't. You wake up and you're like, oh my God, thank God it was a dream.
I get that.
Yeah.
So it's like you're not are you it's almost like you're not conscious to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's like, it seems like everyday life, right? I mean, some dreams are so like dreamy, you know they're a dream, right? Like,
But your dreams are normal enough where you
yeah, like real life dreams, like real life dream type stuff.
like normal dreams.
yeah.
I don't have those, man.
Yeah.
Mine are weird.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, you're kind of a weird guy. Just kidding.
You tell a lot of people, but tell a lot about a person by their dreams. But have you ever been like in your dream? It's fucking normal, right? And then all of a sudden, Seth Piter, instead of pulling out a pack of cigs, pulls out a chew, packs it,
No.
puts one in, and you're like, "Oh,
That's a
I'm
dream.
dreaming.
That's
Gig
a
is
dream.
up. Gig is up."
He'd
Never
be throwing up. No, nothing like that. No, I don't know. No, I'm
how
very.
often do you
like-
fish in your dreams?
Not that often.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah,
Why?
like very seldom.
Shouldn't you fish more in your dreams, Bradley?
You would think so.
Like, what the hell's like
You
that? To
would-
me, is a bigger thing we should talk about.
You would think so. I don't know. Like, honestly, it is. Like, I mean, I hate to even say this, but like, I've had people close to me die and like had dreams about talking to them, right? Like, real ass dreams, like not like
Okay.
yeah, like real, like I don't know. I don't
If you,
I'm-
so you
I'm-
talk to Teddy in your dreams? Have you
I
talked to
haven't
Teddy?
had one about him.
No Teddies?
No, no Teddy. But yeah, like other people, like yeah, like crazy stuff. Like I didn't even know they were dead, and I had a dream about them, and then you find out the next day.
No way,
Yeah, like
dude.
yeah, like haunted shit.
That's not. That's to me. Okay. To me, do you feel like we're like do you feel like we're all connected?
I don't know. Must be. I don't really think about it.
That
Try
tells
not
me
to.
that maybe we're all connected. Like
Could be.
you automatically go to fucking haunted. It's ghosts. Like to me, there's a positive thing to be taken out of that, and to me, it's
I
we're all
mean,
connected. You can be like,
yeah,
I don't know,
it's-
man. I got haunted, and
Yeah. Like,
no,
it's
like to
not
me, it's
like,
not just you got haunted.
It's kind of like you ever like think you've been somewhere. What do they call it?
Deja vu?
Deja vu. Like I get deja vu multiple times a day.
Multiple times a day.
Yeah.
You got it today?
I had some driving up here. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Like I've been.
About
you
the
have
road or something.
You've
like,
driven to my house before.
one time. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean that's been 3 years ago though.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Feels like just yesterday.
Yeah. Like I don't know. It's crazy.
Deja vu, is weird.
Yeah. Like it's like I always worry when I get it. Like, is it like I'm gonna die right now? Like that's what I think about.
That's where your mind goes.
Yeah. Like oh my god, it's right before I die or something.
For me, it's like when like I try to dig deeper into that memory.
Yeah.
Like I'm like when, God, you know, I just like God, when
Yeah.
was I here?
No, it's usually not like that for me. It's usually like, wow, I was here I saw this somehow, and why am I seeing it again?
Maybe you dream about it,
Probably.
like that guy, because you maybe
Like
don't
Rain,
remember.
Like I'm kind of like Rain Man or what?
Do you remember your dreams every night? Because
When I
maybe,
wake up, yes, but then they go away quickly.
so maybe like you just forgot you dreamt about it by the time the deja vu hits.
Oh, that could be.
And like that guy who died after you dreamt about it, like maybe if you could remember, and what if you started writing down your dreams and started like taking note of this? Like what
Maybe
if
I could bet on football.
dude
Wouldn't that
dude
be
you could
good?
do a lot of things.
Yeah, save the earth. Maybe.
There's no limits to
No
like
limits.
but that's what I'm saying with
Yeah.
being conscious in your dreams. It's like the people who are good at it,
Yeah.
superpower, and they'll all admit it.
Really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't know
know.
shit about fuck, nor do I know how to lucid dream. But I would love to like have your natural abilities. From the sounds of it, sounds like you have natural God-given dreaming abilities.
I don't know.
and,
I feel like I'm
that's like-
very, very close to everything, right? Like, you know,
like maybe we're all connected.
no, I just feel like I'm close to like Mother Nature, like the
Yeah.
Earth, right? Like,
You're connected with the earth.
yeah, something.
I feel like
that.
we're all supposed to feel that.
Yeah.
Like the Native Americans did, dude.
Yeah, like, you know, like I could see myself living in a cave, right? I don't like. I don't know. Like
I get
I
that.
think I'm very in touch with our.
You're primitive.
Yes, like our very. I think a lot of people in the outdoors are.
I
Like,
would agree.
You know, like you're always checking weather. You're always feeling weather. You're like, you know, how many times you've been sitting on the lake and all of a sudden a breeze hits you a different way. You're like, oh crap, it's gonna storm. And then you look behind, and you're like, oh yeah, it's gonna storm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like
Well, it's kind of like that scoping thing you develop, like when you immerse yourself
Yeah.
in a place, no matter what that is, whether it's a hockey rink, a football field,
Yeah.
nature, a lake, a boat. You're gonna start to notice things that you didn't maybe notice the first time you were in it, and you start to become aware, and you start to become intimate with the place you're in.
and that's the hard part with, you know, a lot of these not older fishermen or fishermen that grew up without it. Like, you know, they built and honed themselves so good to like changing conditions.
Yeah.
And now it's like all thrown out the window.
Exactly.
But there's a but there, because there's a way to do that with scoping too, right? Like, so
the young guys
Yes.
dominating, that's what they're doing.
yeah, they're seeing
Or
stuff.
Fothergill,
And
anyway.
what I've noticed with scoping, I mean, the biggest thing I've noticed is picking up on small details.
Puts the rest of the puzzle together.
Yeah, like a long ways away, or all of a sudden, it's no different than fishing through your backslur. All of a sudden, you see this little blimp, and you know there's a fish out there swimming to the side, and you jig a little more, it turns around, comes in, right? Scoping's the same deal. Like, you're panning, all of a sudden, something just catches your eye, and you're like, oh yeah, and then you dig into it a little deeper. Yeah, there one sits. Or they're swimming by, you know, where it's very easy to miss it, right?
Sure.
Very easy to miss it.
Yeah.
Where when your eye gets trained for it and scope, like, they're seeing stuff most people aren't seeing.
100%.
Yeah.
I feel, and Fothergill and I've talked about this, but the reason he feels like he's done what he's done is he is processing information faster than everybody.
Oh yeah.
Reading, and by information meaning not only scope but also the weather, the conditions, the wind, combining all of those things and putting it into a program and a pattern. And KVD, like he's like doing KVD stuff Aaron Martin style is the best way I can just, because he's like fishing as fast as KVD did with a spinning pole. Is the best way I can describe it.
And yeah, he's definitely very talented at what he does, because the misconception is like you buy a scope and you can go win a tournament, right? Like, that's not even
close.
That maybe was 4 years ago, right? Or
Maybe.
before anyone knew to go look. But nowadays it's just so competitive that, I mean, I set up my boat this year just for scoping. I mean, everyone has, like, right? Like,
it's the most important tool on your boat now.
Yeah, like, I mean, I have a 18-inch MBT up front, and it's like, I'm not looking at a 10 or 12-inch screen anymore. I put it on a beat-down mount so I can lift it right into my face. I'm like, I have to. Like, there's no getting around it.
I mean, just the information you get, even as far as the activity level of the area you're fishing, the grass, how the area lays out structurally from a vertical standpoint, if we're talking forward mode, where the fish are positioned in the water column. Wow. What a concept. 100 feet in front of you.
Yeah.
Like, we used to, the rule of thumb in bass fishing in the books I read is you got to figure out if they're more in the middle, the bottom, or the top.
Yeah.
So having a good variety of lures from top water to spinnerbait down to a jig is very crucial.
Oh, yeah.
And you used to have to cast
Everything.
to figure that out.
Yeah. And get a bite,
Correct.
let alone. Yeah. I mean, it has changed every aspect of all that, right? Like,
How many times has that been said on a podcast, do you think? It has
lot.
changed every aspect of all of that.
It has.
Dude,
Like,
it has.
And it's not, I mean, I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just technology, where we're going with it. And the interesting part of it, you know, everyone complains about the elite scoping tournaments, and I find it super interesting, honestly. Like, I
do
don't,
too.
I don't turn it off because they're scoping.
I don't
at
either.
all. I'd probably watch that more than a guy going down a bank with a buzzbait. I mean, obviously it's hard to beat a guy catch him on a frog, but that's so minimal that you're ever going to see that it's magical when it does happen. But
100%.
that's what made me so sad on the river this year. Like, I missed the lock by like a minute. I probably the first 2 days caught 80 fish on a frog, right? Like, I went, and I never leaned on them. Like, this is like 80 fish, 40 fish probably in 2 hours.
Yep.
Like, and I never really leaned on them. I just moved, right? And I went out the next day and caught 40 of them on a frog with live. Like, that stuff changed.
Teal's Bass Galaxy is now offering intergalactic merchandise. That's right. We got apparel now, baby. Check out our website. We got a variety of apparel, hats, bucket hats, sweatshirts, t-shirts, all the finest goods. So stop on our website, tealsbassgalaxy.com, click on the apparel tab, and start looking good, baby.
Changes your career sometimes, right? Like, it's like, oh my God. But
you found, like, what's crazy to me is how much you planned for the lock and still got fucked.
Yeah, 3 hours.
Yeah, like
3 hours.
Like, I really don't know what to tell a guy after that.
I was getting to a point where, I'd never do this, but I'm like, Austin was fishing the tournament. He didn't lock up. I'm like, Austin, meet me at the spillway. My boat broke. I'll just jump over the spillway with a bag of fish and you run me in. Like, I don't know if there's a rule against it.
Honestly,
probably giving people ideas right now, but the spillway is only like 5 feet. So, I could just park my boat on the spillway and jumped over, not touch ground. It might have broke my back or something, but whatever. It might have been worth it.
Honestly, with what you had and what you had to give up with the lock thing, that's just heartbreaking, dude. It's just heartbreaking. There's no better.
It was the worst beat ever. Like, honestly, like,
yeah.
I've felt like
when you have a sack and you can't fucking weigh it.
Yeah, like,
God damn it.
It was like,
tell me a worse feeling.
I don't know.
That's like the hottest chick you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Clothes off, ready to go. You're almost there.
And her husband.
Mom walks in. Somebody, opens the door. Worse than that. It's worse than that.
No, it's honestly like, I've been through some tough time. It's not like that, but it's like
I've seen that. That's not
like
that bad.
In fishing, like you work so hard all year to put yourself in a position. Like, you're
100%. That's your moment you work your whole season for.
Probably,
20 season for.
Yeah.
More than one season for.
Yes. Like, winning, when you start traveling the country, winning becomes pretty rare, right?
Oh, dude, winning ain't easy.
No, like, it's very rare.
Winning is hard.
It's super hard. It's hard anywhere you go. Like,
hard.
If you're going to fish 30 tournaments in the Midwest from club level to...
It's not head-to-head. It's not Brad versus this guy.
Yeah.
There's 70 fucking hammers that, or...
Yeah,
there is more than 1 versus 1 on a win, and your likelihood of winning...
slim.
It's so hard.
It is so hard. And to put together for 3 days, even to have, like, going into every tournament, you have the best expectations, right? Like, oh, yeah, if everything goes right, I might be able to do this. Like, going into that tournament, like, after the first hour, the first day, I'm like, I can win this tournament. There was no one fishing within eyesight of me. There's multiple 3 to 4.5 pound bass. I'm like, this is unbelievable. Like, and they're just coming and coming, and they're not leaving. I pulled up to this one mat, my first mat, first morning. I was throwing a frog. I see him boiling in the mat as I'm pulling up. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on?
So
I thought
nice.
carp were spawning or something.
Oh, sure. You're like...
It was September, so they're probably not. So I'm like, I throw up there. It hits the mat. Boof. As I set the hook, like 3 of them jump out of the mat. I'm like,
how thick's the mat? Just like out of curiosity, like how...
It was pretty thick.
They're just punching on it.
Yeah, they're just like, no, I want that frog.
No,
like,
we're punching mats.
Yeah, like, it is like...
You're not... No, we're punching mats
I've
today.
never seen anything like that. And honestly, like, I've never been a huge fan of frog fishing until I went out with Seth a bunch frog fishing, and he loves it. Like, absolutely loves it. And, you know, I start fishing with him, and I start having fun. And, you know, like, you don't get to use that tool very often.
Right.
But when you go to lacrosse, you get to use that tool, right? Like, so it's like, I mean, one of probably the best places in the country to have a tournament, honestly. Besides the lock part, that sucks. But
no, you're right. It's
the
very
fishing
diverse.
is so diverse. You can fish wing dams, you can fish cut. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Wing dam. I mean, but you need those bigger fish, right? So it's kind of like
That's the struggle, or that's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
you
that's
need
the
those
river
three and a quarter to 4, and each day, like, I had a 4 3/4 and saw some more big ones. Like, I mean, like, honestly, I could have had over 20 pounds a day. Like, it was, and that's huge down there. Like, you don't, I mean, yeah, they have little tournaments down there, and, you know, Nick Trim or Monsieur wins one with 22 pounds, but there's like 7 boats, and, you know, there's not 225 guys beating up the river, right? So but it's just so unique and how it changes and how everything, I mean, I was down there. That's only the second time I've ever been down there. The first time I was with my son and Liam, and we were fishing the national championship in high school. It was so that was the first time I was ever there. And actually a bunch of those spots, like, completely, they were gone, like, not even there anymore. Like, sand drops and stuff, like,
yeah,
they ain't even here anymore. Like, the structure's not even here, which makes it so cool to me. Like, if I had you know, I grew up fishing Minnetonka, which is always the same for the most part, where the river is like, those guys that grew up down there, I mean, they're good to changing. Yeah, they're good at changing conditions.
It's the one thing that's inevitable about the river is change.
It's always changing.
The nice thing is there's a constant, and that's current. That helps manage. In my, like, what I've learned is the current is the constant that helps you not go insane about that change.
Yeah,
and it helps. I love fishing the river.
I do too. I never used to, though.
No, same.
You know what got me to like the river? The South.
Really?
Because every reservoir you go to down there, it's basically like it is a river. Mm-hmm. So all the structure sets up the same, basically.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to go to, like, Kentucky Lake has taught me more about fishing rivers than any place else.
Sure.
It's all this current and all this different stuff rolling with the current, and all of a sudden it just clicks one day. You know, and I had some really good days, like, down in Gunnersville, too, where that's a big thing down there, too, the current. And
walk me through, like, that day that it clicked. Like, what was it that clicked? Because I think I'm happy to share the moment it clicked for me. It was magical.
I don't really know if it was, like, instant click, but it was, like, the last 2 years I probably spent 20 to 25 days each year on Kentucky Lake.
Mm-hmm.
And just, you know, I got super lucky. I mean, I've been out fishing out there with Matt Robertson a whole bunch.
That's cool.
You know, he knows that, like, better than anyone on planet Earth. And, you know, he showed me some stuff, but it actually, like, the stuff he showed me, like, I didn't understand it, like, honestly, until I went out there on my own and started finding more stuff. And, like, this makes sense now. Like, all the time, you know, like, I grew up in Minnetonka, so there had to be, you know, a rock pile or rocks in the grass or, you know, something like that, right?
Yep.
All of a sudden, you're down south and it's a moon, right? Like, there's nothing. So it's like, I can catch them on nothing if the current's hitting it just right. Like, this doesn't even make sense to me.
Warming water, right? Or, you know, you catch them in mud bays, like on a rattle trap in the spring there. Like,
like, they just roam, right? Like, they're just...
Well, it's shad driven, it's current driven.
Yeah,
and
so
you noticed that once you figured out how the current was laying out.
Yeah, like current...
once you caught them and were able to make that happen, you could duplicate that and run it.
And down south, like, that's the great thing about down south. It's like, once you figure something out, you can fish from dam to dam. Like, it doesn't change much.
Sure.
right? I
Yep.
mean, the only thing that's changed is scoping. They sit
water
in the middle
clarity
of the
maybe
lake
a little
now.
bit,
Yeah,
right?
water clarity.
So the dirt, like if you got a clean water pattern,
Yep.
that might change on the dirty side,
yeah, and-
or vary in depth, or
Yeah, and every reservoir you go to, when you get down towards the dam, it's always clear water, and when you're up the river, it's always dirty. So it's really simple that way. But the cool thing about down south, though, you can go throw a crankbait in the mud all day. You can go throw a spinnerbait in the mud all day. You kind of pick the water clarity you're most comfortable with, right?
getting into current though, like on rivers, it makes a lot of sense to me. On reservoirs, it makes sense, but not river sense. You know what I mean? Because there's not the same level of current, and it's dependent on when the dam's drawing. And, it seems to be less noticeable current on a reservoir, right? So, like,
very much so.
But it positions fish. So
position on the current.
I want to know how they things you've learned about how they position in different currents, and how you're approaching that, dude.
You're fishing a lot of bars and stuff on Kentucky Lake where the water's rolling over it or whatnot. Those fish are always pretty close to where that current seams are, where it rolls over it.
That needs to be shallow enough to create a good enough roll. That's my question. How deep does that need to top out?
It can be anywhere. Like, honestly,
what's the deepest you've seen it top out and work?
Current in Kentucky, like 20 feet.
20 feet.
30 feet. It all depends what kind of structure you're fishing or where the fish are located at that time of year.
Are you looking at it the same? So to me, I'm very familiar with looking at a river, looking at an obstruction in current, and understanding how the current hits that and rolls off of it and what it does after that, and how I need to position my boat accordingly. And my question is, 20 feet down, is it the same thing?
Well, if you think about a river, or you think about Kentucky Lake, or whatever lake it may be down south, there is valleys coming in everywhere you go, right?
Bunch of creek mouths.
Yeah,
haulers, bunch of haulers.
Bunch of haulers coming in there. And it depends on where the fish are staging. They use those haulers as getting back their spawn, then coming back out, then going back in there in the fall to eat shad, because all the shad move up. And when they're on their way into spawn, usually there's a shad spawn, which that's something new we never deal with up here. Shad spawn's a huge deal down south. It always is.
Yep.
If you're down there from
current, Bradley.
Current. So generally it has to be something facing up current, right? Generally.
Something that the current's hitting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like they sit in the current a lot down there.
Sure.
Like
when they're active or not active?
Anytime.
All
honestly,
the time.
Yeah. And it can be just a foot dip in it or whatever. It doesn't have to be much. But they're, and you can go down. If you go down south to any reservoir, you can see the best current plot because there's always boats sitting on them, right?
Sure.
Like,
just look for the boats.
Just look for the boats. That's not what I do, but you can find different areas inside that aren't so obvious, right?
There's obvious current spots. There's sneaky current spots.
Yes, and you get to those secondary points or those, certain flats on top of flats. There may be a little divot. There may be
I think that's
something.
A sneaky example, right?
Yes.
Because we all know, current hitting a bend, right? A channel swing, pretty textbook, common current phrase, reservoir, current phrase, right? Point stopping that current.
And it's not
but
like
a flat with having a depression,
just a little depression,
stumps prior to depression, whatever it might be, is going to set those fish up.
Flats
can be intimidating though.
On
a reservoir.
A lot of reservoirs, though. There'll be clam, like the clam or whatever shell
beds.
Whoa.
Did you see that? You pulled it over.
I did.
Yeah, dude. I think you've got some spiritual power that's
can't
just
put it back.
Unknown.
Put that back up there.
All right.
No, you can't get it.
I got it finally.
No, but I don't think I learned I obviously look for different stuff on rivers, but I just figured out current first time. And how it doesn't have to have structure, right? It doesn't have to. You can go to the Mississippi and catch them on sand, right? Or mud drop, whatever it may be. I never growing up on Minnetonka, I never thought that, or how would you ever attack something like that, right? Like, but now when as current makes sense to you, it's like, oh yeah, they're gonna just sit here out of the current, right? You got it already. Wow. I mean, I had a big lesson on it when I think we were in Ouachita last year. And I found this deep coontail, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I caught like a 3
On
and a
Ouachita?
Yeah.
That's cool.
I think it was Ouachita.
How
no,
deep?
no, not Ouachita. It was that shithole we went to last year.
Santee? How deep?
No, it was, I don't know. It wasn't very good fishing. But anyway.
You follow?
No, that place is horrible. Not for whatever.
How deep was the coontail?
The coontail was like in 10 foot.
Cool.
And it was kind of like in this area. I caught a big one flipping it in practice.
How far south is this? Is this the farthest south coontail I've heard of?
It could have been. I mean, it
It's
was
like-
in Alabama.
Oh, because that's the first coontail I've heard in Alabama.
It was in Alabama. It wasn't.
Coontail exists in Alabama.
I'm trying to think. There's a bunch of milfoil in that lake, though, too.
Sure.
Yeah.
I know milfoil's down in Bama.
Yeah. I mean,
Common.
not very much anywhere ever, but
Gunnersville, I thought, had a bunch at one point.
Gunnersville used to. Now it's all like eelgrass.
No hydrilla?
A little bit.
A little bit?
A lot of eelgrass. And anyways, so I roll up what I thought was the best spot I had, and I fished it for like 2 hours. I mean, this little area. As I left, Bobby Lane was coming in there. That was 2 years ago when Bobby Lane was fishing.
Yeah.
Well, he knew that they were going to turn on the current at like noon. And he had the biggest bag of the tournament off that spot. I left because I was too dumb to know they were going to turn on the current. That was going to fire him up. And I mean, that's just the things you learn, though. You don't learn that until you get a lesson, right?
I feel like you need to find some friends in the Corps of Engineers.
I have all the apps now. Like honestly,
but
like
I feel like the next.
yeah,
If
yeah,
you had a guy
yeah,
on speed dial,
yeah. I'm
where
not
you can-
Monsieur though. He does that. I don't have that.
I mean, I'm not saying. Do you think he's to the point of like, turn it on?
No, I think Tom Monseur's like open the gate more than turning on the current.
Get me.
Yeah.
Well, that's where my mind went first. Is like, Corps of Engineers get you
Turns.
through that damn lock.
Yeah, that's where
Like,
mine went to.
sneak in with the barge or whatever
I
you gotta
should've,
do.
Yeah, but yeah, it was.
Dude, you probably could have snuck in, kind of like.
Honestly, the problem was okay. So
a lot of water movement with that barge probably
Yeah.
fucked your rub rail up.
I wouldn't care. At
Worth
all.
it.
Yeah, like I pulled up. Like I pulled up literally as the gates were 3/4 open, closing, and the bass guys are going through, and the guy wouldn't let me in. I wish I would just drove in, like just went for it.
Yeah, what would he have done?
I don't know.
Would he
maybe-
have opened him up and be like, "You out"? No, he'd be
Probably
like,
like,
"Well,
call-
he got me."
He would probably call the tournament director and got me DQ'd or
Well,
something. But
I mean-
that would have been a shot, right? But
Yeah.
I didn't. This is 3 hours before I have to weigh in, so I never thought.
Never even thought
Yeah.
you had to go there, like
No.
to get to that point. And you're like, "No, I'll get the next one."
I'll get the next one. And the worst part, the barge was like 2 miles up the river. I thought he'd let me through.
How many casts did you throw at the riprap near the lock?
Honestly, I just sat in my boat. Just like,
You didn't even try.
no, I didn't even
I'd have
try.
probably thrown at some riprap.
Well, I had like, oh my god, I had almost 17 pounds.
You did it again, dude.
I'm putting my hands down.
You
That
got,
thing broke.
dude. I feel like, dude. Did you sell your? Are you in the Illuminati?
I don't know what that is.
Me either. Do you worship Satan?
No, God, no.
That's.
Yeah, not.
Do you remember that haunted house we were in the last podcast we recorded?
Oh yeah, that thing was super haunted.
It's creepy.
Yeah, that was the old. That was at the Classic. Yeah. Are you going to the Classic this year?
I hope so.
Oh, good. We're in the trailer.
No,
No.
probably just me.
Oh, good.
Might bring Cole. I want Cole to come with. He'd
Yeah?
have fun. Yeah.
It'll be a good one this year.
I need a chaperone.
Yeah, you probably do. It was a bad one last year. That was a rough part of town.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
That was one of the more ghetto establishments I've been to.
Yeah.
Tulsa was nice, though. I mean,
That's all right. I mean, when you hear a shooting, though, it's kind of takes the fun out of it.
I missed that part. I missed the gunshots,
Oh,
luckily.
yeah.
I'm
It
not
was-
built for that.
It did have those little bikes though. Like those things. Are
The scooters,
fun.
the limes.
Oh yeah,
Hell
they're
yeah.
the deal.
So Texas, do you think they'll have the limes?
Probably, I would think so. I don't know. We're going to Fort Worth, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be really fun this year.
You're fishing Champs Tour again?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Might
Yeah,
not
you
to-
have to. Otherwise, you're gonna get kicked out. You'll never get back in.
That's 2 less packs you're getting.
What? Come on.
Hey,
I'm not gonna do good this year, probably. Although I
you didn't
might.
see them? I ain't gonna show them to you.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
You can go look again.
No, I don't know if I have enough money for that. You know.
So the answer to our question about the beer was 150 years.
150 years.
Yep, here's the story. Minnesota Gold Lager. We are Minnesota, land of 10,000 lakes. If we've got anything up here, it's water. And we like our water. But more than that, we like to see our water put to good use. That's why our brewers made Minnesota Gold. To see real Minnesota water
Turn
brewed
gold.
into a classic premium quality lager. So please, go ahead and crack open a can. Here in your hands is a clean taste of Minnesota. From us to you, Bradley.
Tastes pretty dang good.
Vikes gonna pull it out tonight?
God, let's hope so. They need some good.
You do need some good.
I mean, they do have ginger Jesus. Do they call him that? Yeah,
So,
ginger Jesus. Yeah.
I personally kind of didn't like Kirk Cousins.
Nah, he was kind of overrated.
Man, he was so hard to like.
He couldn't run. He couldn't hard. Well, he threw dimes if you gave him a minute or two, but
But you want that dog at quarterback, you know? And he
Yeah.
felt like he kind of was puppy-esque, you know?
Yeah, I
Little
mean,
puppy-esque.
I hope Sammy does some running tonight. I think that will be a key to the game. He's gonna have to pick up some hard yards somewhere.
I'll be honest, I feel like O'Connell did not do him any favors in that Lions blowout.
Yeah.
All he needed to do was what Kirk Cousins did, which is throw 10-yard passes all night. And I feel like those plays were never
never
drawn
there.
for
No.
him. And that second half, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
what they're doing right now is exactly what they did when they were pressuring Kirk Cousins and our line sucked.
Yep.
And O'Connell never made, if we're talking about adjustments tournament day,
He didn't make them that day.
and Darnold took most of the fucking fall for it.
Yeah, he did. I mean,
Sammy Boy, Ginger Ninja,
you need it.
here's the deal. Gingers don't get enough love in this world. My mom's ginger, okay?
Nice.
They don't. They don't, man. Their sperm's worth more, and nobody appreciates that.
That makes sense.
Did you know that?
They're rare. They're getting
Ginger
rarer by
sperm
the-
is worth more
I
than
didn't know
any
that.
other sperm.
I'm not in the market, so I wouldn't know.
Well, I'm not ginger, so
No.
yeah, and I can't blow loads like a ginger.
No,
I mean,
I
those
wouldn't
guys
think so.
freaking.
Are they good? Yeah.
I mean, Sammy.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope he has a good game plan.
I want him to. He's a guy I want to root for. You
He
love
does.
to see that underdog story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to see that guy who 2 teams gave up on him, and then he goes and fucking says
Wins the Super Bowl.
Wins the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Says, "Hey,
Now
all you people who doubted me, look at the size of this ring."
I get $50 million a year.
And
now.
who doesn't love that story? Fishing story, whatever it might be, dude. Everybody loves that story.
Everyone does.
So I hope the best for Sammy tonight. This podcast is going to air well after the result.
Not on tonight. No.
This podcast is going to air well after the result of
July?
this game tonight.
Hopefully they have a Super Bowl by then.
No, this will air hopefully by February.
There you go. Okay, we better go so we can go watch the Vikings.
Yeah, dude. This was fun. Cheers.
Cheers, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Okay, last question before we go.
Okay.
What's another sleeper Crush City bait that you would say hasn't got the hype, but that you've
The janitor worm for sure.
Got it.
Honestly, is
So-
they're the one that kind of it really took off, the freeloader, and it kind of is getting lost now with the mooch. Like that.
The freeloader's damn good.
Don't sleep on the freeloader.
No.
Like, if they're really into shaking, like they really want it really shaken, the freeloader's money.
Tennessee River, I heard, is hard to beat. The freeloader,
Yep.
and then Chatterbuggy trailer. It's a fuck.
Well,
really
I mean
good
that's
Chatterbuggy
what it.
trailer.
I mean that's what it was designed
Originally.
for. Yeah. So
Yeah.
they kind of struck gold with it, and yeah, I mean everything they make's really good. Like the
It's been
flipping
cool to
bug.
see.
Yeah, I mean they're Rapala really
Stepped it up.
BMC, the honestly too, like these two beauties right here, the Maverick, the deep diver, the shallow diver. Like that deep diver, I had that all last year, and this fall,
like it?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
like it's a little different than say the Megabass.
Mhm.
It takes a little bit more work to get it down there. Like
Sure.
you can't crank it down; you have to snap it down. But the colors, like
I like the colors.
the colors are sick. Like I've seen, and I mean, I caught a lot of smallmouth on it this fall. The colors are great. The hooks. I'm scared though. Every time I hook one on it, like when I grab it, I'm like, for sure, I'm gonna have to go to the doctor because those hooks are so sharp.
Oh yeah,
Like you
yeah,
gotta
yeah.
be super careful with those things. Like they scare me to death.
I think a shadow wrap is one of the sleeper jerk baits. The shadow wrap deep,
Oh.
and I feel like the Maverick is like following suit, like of sneakiness to
Yeah.
shadow wrap deep, and is a better
The,
a better version.
The sneakiest thing I'll tell you that I mean I've never told anyone this. That new Elite Shad Wrap is a game changer when it comes down south.
New Elite Shad Wrap.
Oh.
What is that?
It's like a flat bill shad wrap.
Oh,
It is. I mean, my buddy from Kentucky, Jerkbaiter, if he listens, he'll shoot me for telling you this.
he
but
probably won't listen. That's the good
no,
news.
he probably
Like,
won't hear about
I'm
it.
not quite cool enough yet.
But it has an action. You can crank it like Mach 10 if you want to, or you can crawl the bottom with it. It gets bit.
It's cold water crank.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
Like-
love
like in the Open this year. That bait will play for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
in the fall.
No, on
Spring?
Kentucky this year.
Oh, yeah.
March.
Dude, I love like throwing like a flat side 5-foot dive.
Yeah, it's a lot
it's
like-
so fun, man.
It's a
my
lot
favorite
like
bite.
it's
One
a,
of them.
Yeah, it's great. It's a lot like a flat slide. It has
Cool.
a real tight wobble to it.
Can you throw it like on?
a baitcaster? Yeah,
That's my
The
complaint
se-
with the
the
shad
sev-
wrap.
The 7 you can. The 5 no. But
Are they throwing
seven,
the 7 or the 5 more?
I throw the 7 all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that big.
Sure. What
mean-
color are you doing? More shad pattern or crop
Shad,
pattern?
shad. With
Okay,
it. Yeah.
sure.
It. They've really stepped it up there over there though. Like the jerk baits, the plastics,
Yeah.
the tungsten weights. I mean, the red line hook.
The red line
series,
hooks, big improvement.
huge improvement.
Well, I know Kyle Wood, and he's a sleepy angler. Like flies in the shadows,
Oh, yeah.
good ass fisherman,
Oh,
but
yeah.
B, kind of one of the brainchilds behind the Crush City stuff. And
Oh, yeah.
I think they just put the right pieces of the puzzle together for that one. And I feel like he was the right man
he
for
does-
that job.
He does a great job over there.
Kyle is
they've-
a fucking beauty.
They've put a
Shout
lot
out Kyle
of
Wood.
Yeah, they put a lot of the good people in the right positions over there now.
Well, it's like you and I have talked about this. The pros' ability to, and you're a developer. As a developer, I
Yep.
think even if you maybe didn't get your hands on that stuff,
Nope.
you can probably appreciate it from a developer standpoint. What was
Absolutely.
done with the Crush City lineup because
Yep.
it was intimate. It was an intimate process with Kyle Wood and professional anglers.
Oh yeah, I think you're gonna see a lot more of this in our sport right now. I think you're gonna see anglers having a lot more ability to produce product, right? Like
Dude, that's how it should be.
it's scary though. Like you have this huge company and you have some weird angler out there. Like, do you want them? Do they know what they're talking about? Right? Like that.
I mean, would you rather, when we're talking about a fishing lure,
yeah,
I want a fucking angler, a damn good one making it, not a suit and tie, dude.
yeah.
And
Well,
and there's a
that's-
lot of suit and tie lures out there, and it bothers me.
Well, it's hard though too because the anglers, he creates a dud and he's not gonna pay the consequences like suit and tie guy is, right? So-
Totally right. The suit and ties only create duds, and they're willing to pay all the consequences for
Yeah,
it.
I mean, you're seeing a lot of that change though, and you're gonna
The
see more of it.
The Japanese, I feel like, kind of saved
Start,
that for the America would not be. I don't think we would be I don't think you'd be saying that if it weren't for
Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're
just saying. We got to give them credit where it's due.
They're
the only people besides people in their garages that have maintained refinement and quality in this industry.
Well, I mean, that's where the good ideas come from, honestly. I mean, there's
American Garage in Japan, yeah.
Japan's, I mean, they're ahead of the curve with all of it.
5 years.
They're pushing the envelope. I mean,
How long were they shaking a minnow before we were?
well, the crazy thing
Well,
is,
like we were hanging a minnow. They were
Yeah.
shaking one, right? That's
yeah,
the
like
difference.
where it all really started, honestly, was up in Bruce's neck of the woods in
Canada.
Canada, right? So that started. I mean, Gooner, Stews, those guys all were shaking minnows long time. I mean, they weren't
casting
shaking
them?
it. No, they were holding it
Hanging
underneath their
them.
tiller, right?
Right.
Very vertical, and it just went on and on. You know, like you can't hardly catch them shaking a minnow up there anymore. It's the same thing when we asked Kenta on our deal. Like he told us in Japan, the quickest trend to go away was forward facing. They got used to it the quickest, like the hardest to catch them.
Really?
Yeah, like he's like, yeah, that won't last. Like, and that's what everyone, you know. And,
We need to talk about that. Like,
yeah.
That's what we need to talk about right now because that's got me curious. So, what happened to Japan?
You just couldn't catch them with live scope anymore.
They just got used to it.
Yep, they got used to it. I mean, you see it like even in the ice house, like the
Oh,
fish
yeah.
skirt that live scope, and I don't know why. We were talking about that today. Like, it's not loud or anything, so I don't know what if they just can feel it, sixth sense, who knows? But that was the quickest trend. I mean, even quicker than A rig stuff like that.
Wow.
So we're gonna and that's gonna add like a level of difficulty. Like our lure builders and our companies, like you're gonna see a resurgence in crankbaits and stuff in the near future because you're gonna be scoping with them. Honestly, like you're gonna
Have to make 'em react.
You're gonna have to get them to react to it, And I think Patrick Walters was pretty much the first on that bandwagon with the jerkbait, right? He would get them.
That makes perfect sense with the hanging and
Yep.
the hoverability of a jerk
Yep.
bait.
But now you got to move it quick and get them to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna
Right.
chase you down and eat you quick. But yeah, it'll be interesting times. I mean, the next 5 years in fishing. I mean, it's gonna be a change of the guard with what's going on, and
I mean, what's more insane though? The state of bass fishing right now or the fact that like the West Coast is burning and there's drones and orbs being flown around the East Coast and like the world's a weird place right now.
I'm just
and
gonna
I'm just
stick to
wondering
bass
I
fishing.
feel like fishing's pretty like when you look at like the world,
Yeah.
if you start to watch the news, if you're fucking crazy,
don't watch the news.
don't watch that shit.
No.
No. But maybe fishing is
The
pretty,
norm?
like it's the craziest we've ever seen it, but yet the world's the craziest we've ever seen it. Would you expect anything less, Bradley? Hunting just doesn't seem to be seeing that. Like
No.
hunting's still like still using
Yeah.
we had scopes in Vietnam.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I
they
mean,
had scopes in Vietnam for hunting.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're seeing it in the hunting side, though, too. There's states limiting trail cameras. There's a lot of things going on the hunting side also with technology. But I think you hear about it more. And I don't, if Teddy was still alive, he'd probably tell you stories about how many times he thought, this trend was it's like the changing of the guard, right? Like the old leave and the young come up. So it's just happening at a quicker rate right now than normal, per se. And a lot of factors. It's not just live scope. It's not, it's all of them combined. And I don't think it's bad. I mean, the only thing bad I see with fishing right now is the negativity around it, which I don't want to promote in any shape, way, or form. That is what is going to kill our sport, is negativity.
Totally. You said Japan. So what's interesting about what you said about Japan is like they're not using live scope anymore. But what I know for a fact is they're still shaking minnows.
Oh, yeah. You can shake a minnow without live scope.
That's what I'm getting at. is
That's
to
how
me.
I got all my confidence this year because I'm not that great at live scoping. I can shake a minnow without looking at it and catch them.
Do you feel like it's going to come to like just not shining them and shaking is the way you're going to have to make them bite? Like, because that sounds like a weird world to live in.
Yeah, I mean, like on St. Clair, I mean, fish go through like I don't think there's a yes or no, right? Like fish go through like periods.
Wait, are you saying there's a gray?
They're super gray with it. I think they go
Is
through.
fishing gray?
Yeah,
Fishing's
it's
gray.
It's pretty gray
Yeah.
because it's not like
We've come full circle now.
yeah. There's like periods of time where throughout the day it doesn't matter. You know, you can catch them underneath the boat. You can catch them, you know, if they're active. I mean, it's when you
For sure.
But there are also periods of time where, like on St. Clair, I was throwing 90 to 100 feet to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you shined them at, say, you know, you'd start seeing them at like 120. If you'd get closer than 90, they'd just go dunk. You couldn't see them anymore. They'd sink into the bottom.
There's some to that.
So they definitely feel the pressure sometimes. And the more pressure that's on the lake, I mean, we see it with the opens. Like when you show up, Leech Lake, prime example, fish biting everywhere. Everyone's like, it's going to take 30 pounds, you know? All the locals are smarting off. They're going to catch whatever. It didn't take that. I mean, Fothergill honestly exceeded what I thought would be caught. By a lot.
I would agree. He
like,
whacked 'em.
he whacked them. Like, he put a clinic on. Like, honestly. Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
In a tough smallmouth fishery.
Very
like,
tough.
You had some of the better smallmouth anglers not weighing a limit.
I mean, there was Dakota Ebear, second day. I think he caught one. Or if he caught one. Like, I mean, that guy can catch fish on the moon. I mean, that guy catches them wherever he goes.
Right.
I mean, he's a good buddy, and he's a hammer, dude. Like,
Oh my God.
So it's not like
Absolute hammer.
Leech Lake, though, is I mean, me and Brucey talk about it all the time, the hardest smallmouth to catch on planet Earth.
Yeah.
The hardest. I mean, we're not all banger, and we can't catch 8-pounders every day. But
Right.
most of us, like, they're tough to catch.
Yes.
Yeah,
Extremely.
extremely.
You want to watch the Vikings?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Checking in, checking out. Thanks, guys.